Well, it's been another week, and now it's time for another episode of Hard Hat the CEO. And I think I picked my client today, my interview guest today, just because of his first name is Chris, and I think it's a great name. But anyway, welcome. This is Chris Abdey, all the way from north of the border in Canada, and welcome, Chris.
Oh, thank you for having me, Chris.
For those listeners, what you're going to get in this episode, we're going to talk about procrastination and how to overcome it because Chris is a procrastination coach. And it's not about how to be better at procrastinating, it's better on how to overcome it. So, Chris, tell us a little bit about yourself before we get started.
Oh, sure. Give the short version, I guess. My main focus is procrastination, and I do want to start off by saying, it's not that you're broken, it's not that you're lazy, it's not that you need fixing. It's just programming that at one point served a purpose or helped you, and maybe it's just not now. Um, I was a master procrastinator myself. Have a couple of really interesting stories about that, but for sake of brevity, yeah, it's just my job actually is to put myself out of a job and just help give you the tools to overcome procrastination and really just move on and live the life that you want to live.
Is it, I know you got some programming stuff. Is that, well, see, not necessarily hard to do, but like you said, is it creating like habits, different habits mainly?
Habits are great, but the first step in overcoming procrastination really is to understand the why you're doing it.
Okay.
Many of us forget that, and I mean that there are many tools, there are many programs, there are many ways to build habits to push through. But when you're fighting against your almost like your core, right?
Right.
Then it's always difficult, and you're always kind of pushing that uphill battle. And it just becomes so much easier when you understand really why you're doing it, and then possibly even getting rid of that why, and then you know um, making everything go forward. Let me give you a tangible example of that.
Sure. I like that.
So in my own life, I don't go to the gym. In my garage I have an exercise bike and some weights, and I try to do some form of movement, right? And so my daughter gets out of school in the summer, and all of a sudden I'm up in Canada. We don't see the sun too much, right? So I want to spend time with my daughter. So there's my excuse to not do it until the fall when she's back in school. No problem. So fall rolls around, getting up at 5:30 in the morning, heading out there, doing some reps and some moderate exercise. But I noticed that as time went on, particularly around the end of October, beginning of November, I started to put it off. Started to, sort of drag my feet getting out of bed, started dragging my feet going to the garage. And there were just some days I skipped it. I just sat and drank my coffee for more time. And I said to myself, no, wait, why am I doing this? So I actually had to break the task out because it's not the entire thing that you're avoiding. It's one particular part of that thing. And it boiled down to, so getting up at 5:30, I do that all the time. It's not a big deal. Doing the exercise, I'm not really pushing myself. So, I mean, it's not the exercise either. Going to the garage, oh, hang on a second. Garage is cold. Cold outside, garage is cold. I don't like being cold. So, therefore I was not wanting to go out there, putting off the discomfort of being cold. So when I noticed that and I said, okay, let's fix that. So I just added one step there. So when I get up, before I have a cup of coffee, I just, go out, turn on the little space heater, have my cup of coffee, go out, it's warm, and lo and behold, the procrastination goes away.
Hmm. Now, I talk about delegating things that you're not good at or don't enjoy, but we're talking about something different here, right? We're talking about more of a not you're not good at it, not that you're putting it off because you don't want to do it. It's more of a internal feeling that there's a reason you're not doing it, right? Like in a
Yes.
way,
Mhm.
yeah,
Well, at its core, procrastination can be viewed as a defense mechanism. The
yeah,
defense mechanism, it's meant to keep you quote unquote safe, but safe in this sense is some form of discomfort, whether it's emotional, physical, or mental discomfort. Um, the interesting thing about the brain is that it is very good at protecting you and doing these things, but it doesn't know how to modulate usually. So what do I mean by that? I mean that you get the same stress response sometimes from having a gun to your head as you do as taking a math test. So it's not that the mechanism is broken. It's just that it has no modulation, right? So it doesn't know that, oh, it's really not that uncomfortable. It just knows uncomfortable equals bad. Therefore, I really shouldn't do it. You mentioned delegating. I mean, delegating. I mean, you know, in my scenario, I guess I could too. Teach my daughter some discipline. And say, hey, get up at 5:30 for me, and just go hit that space heater.
Well, I was thinking
Um,
that, well, in your case, the exercise part, you you can't delegate that for your benefit. Yeah, you can delegate some other things, but if you had taught your daughter to go turn the heat on, I guess, but that would be one thing. But this is more of a personal deal, right? I mean, it's something that we can't assign to somebody else,
correct. Yep.
and that's I was thinking earlier before we started. I was thinking, what do I procrastinate with? I don't like paying bills. I do it, but that's not what we're talking about. And we're talking about what are the things, something like I think about diet. You always put that off, or at least I do.
Hmm.
And nobody's gonna. Maybe I could pay my wife to feed me, but I probably starve, which is probably what I need to do anyway. What other types of things that you've got clients? What kind of things that they procrastinate with that you help them with?
So there's a wide multitude of things. Generally speaking, I tend to fall. I tend to work with clients who fall into the dreamer category. So the dreamer category are, individuals who they might have dreams, aspirations to make a business or maybe expand their business, but they find themselves putting things off that would help them, actually increase their business.
Hmm.
So, whether this is being overwhelmed at technology, whether it's putting off, uh, product launches, whether it is, putting off their networking, things of that nature in terms of that. But I mean, I also get people that they can't paint a fence. Like that was literally what they came in with me with, and then it comes down to like, why is that so important? Like, what about that is important to you, and what makes it so important? And that's something else to really kind of clear the air as well, Chris. Is that you know not all procrastination is bad. I mean, we all do it for one reason or another,
Hmm.
um, because there also is prioritization, right? So you don't like your bills, but I mean, they have a due date. So it's not like you're putting it off to the last minute 100% all the time simply because, you don't want to do it. It's because, you don't want to do it, but you're also doing other things that take more precedence to that.
Sure, that's true.
Procrastination is really more about those things that where it really is detrimental is those things that you absolutely have to do, but for whatever reason, they just aren't getting done. Um,
Well, you have to be.
and yeah.
Well, in your one of your scenario, we're talking about you still have to be a leader of your business, and that means even though you might procrastinate, or I don't enjoy that, you still have to be cognizant of it, and then tell other people sometimes if they don't, you got to do this or something to that effect. Um, that's that's very true. And can you give me an example of, I guess, positive procrastination?
Positive. Ooh, you want the positive? Procrastination actually served me very well,
Okay.
too well, and it served me until it didn't.
Well,
Um, when I was in high school, and again, probably many people can relate to this on some level. I mean, I was a master procrastinator. I was in the International Baccalaureate program, and so there were two subjects that I really put off a lot. I put off art because I just didn't see the value in it.
okay.
Bottom line, that was my reason. And biology, because again, I figured that biology was, you knew a couple of cells and you throw them together, you learn about mitochondria and basic processes, and you're probably like, I didn't have any worries about that. I should have been, as I'll get into, into how it happened. So let's start with the art. So the art project, we had 2 years to do 12 art projects. They're supposed to be well thought out diagrams in books, notes, inspirations, thoughts, feelings, blah, blah, blah. Um, and so I chose to do all, and this is all in public record, by the way, because for our last art exam, we actually had a mock um, like exhibition that went in, like it was publicized and it was public in the Tico Times. And what happened is that I did all those art projects in the space of 8 hours. I just slapped them together and said whatever, and set them up. And my saving grace was the proctor and the person who was evaluating came from a different school and had no idea who I was. Neither did my art teacher because I never went to class, but that's a different story.
Oh yeah.
Um, so he comes in and he just starts looking. He's looking at the other art pieces. He gets to mine. He's like, wow. He's like, and then he just starts explaining them. Like he doesn't ask me anything. He just starts going in and starts, saying, I really love this and how you used unconventional materials, but you didn't go too far off the rails with it. And I was like, if you only knew, man. I mean, if all I had in my garage was duct tape, that's what you'd be getting, man. I didn't say that.
Sure, but
And yeah, and my saving grace really was that he said, this is reminiscent of pathetic art. It's like pathetic art, pathetic art. Hang on, can I use this? Can I use this? And I came up with, well, it is pathetic art because in today's society we're all striving for perfection. So does that not make perfection the new mediocrity? And just like that, I had secured my place with the same grade as the guy who busted his hump for 2 years, actually put in the work, got extra lessons, was supported by two very famous stained glass artists at the time too. And he got the same grade as I did. And so that gave me a little minor God complex, obviously.
oh, I bet so. So when you got your grade, did you just run around the house and throw your hands up like a touchdown and like woohoo? I mean, but that would kind of that's positive, yes. But it also, like you said, it reinforced some things too, right?
It definitely did. Actually, the funny thing is that grade didn't really affect my overall results. Um, my brother had a nickname for me. It's probably pretty true. He used to call me mediocrities, and that was his way of kind of sticking fun at the fact that I generally really only did enough work to make the bell curve, and didn't really see the need to work any harder, um, which got me that quote unquote mediocre rating that they put on there, which I think was kind of insulting. But I mean, he had a point, right?
Yeah.
Like I never really put a lot of effort into it, so um, there was that. But yeah.
On the flip side of that, procrastination, for example, is that is it what's the word I'm looking for? Obsession? The opposite of procrastination. What would that be?
Well, the opposite of procrastination would be precrastination, and that's an interesting one.
Okay.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. I don't deal with too many of those
I wouldn't think
types
so.
of
I
people.
was kind of struggling to figure out what it would be. Well, the reason I asked before we started recording, you and I had a little chat, and you mentioned two types of procrastination. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Well, yeah, we have the overt procrastination, but which is the procrastination that we know we're engaged in. So, like when you say that, oh well, I procrastinate on paying my bills, that's procrastination you know about.
Yeah.
The more insidious type of procrastination is the covert procrastination, and typically this is procrastination on the deepest level when it comes to things like self-care, putting yourself first, doing things that will refill your cup, right? And
Mm.
we don't even know we're doing it. We go about our day. We flip through social media. We pay the bills. We go out and make sure there's food on the table. If we have kids, we get them to school. We do these other things, and we don't even realize that we're putting ourselves off, or like on some level, I'm sure we're aware of this, but when you prioritize everything else besides yourself for a long time, which can happen, parents, job, other interests, right? Um, it becomes a big problem later on because when those reasons go away, when that job goes away, when the kids leave, when the wife leaves, when the dog dies. Um, no, that wasn't your cue.
Yeah.
Um, so
That's a
it
figure of imagination there, or figure of speech. Gotcha.
yeah.
So I find myself sometimes when I make a list. I'm always a list maker. I make a list of things that need to be done. So I don't forget. And then you find yourself, or I find myself, like, man, I could do that. Oh, I like this one better. I'm going to do that one instead. Is that the same type of what you're talking about as procrastination wise? You're filling the void that, I mean, you need to do something. At least I feel like I need to be doing something, but I don't necessarily do the stuff that I want to do or need to do more so than others. And it could be because of timeline. Like you said, it could be a deadline. Um, is that kind of what you're talking about as far as,
Um, a little bit.
yeah?
It's not all about timeline though. It's a lot about energy too, because a lot of people come to me
Hmm.
and they say, "Chris, what's going on? I have Motion, I have ClickUp, I have Google Calendar, I have notifications out the Yin Yang. I use a task list. I use Got the Milk. I use Trello. I still can't get anything done. Why?" And the thing is that you have to understand what you were talking about too. You said that you tend to do the tasks that you kind of get more enjoyment out of first, right?
Right.
Rather than do the tasks that are boring. And that relates to your energy levels, right? So you have to identify, and it goes back to why you procrastinate in the first place. I mean, you've got energizers, which are the tasks that you like doing, which uplift you, make you feel happy, maybe you enjoy doing them. And then you've got drainers, like paying the bills. I mean, that's a drain in more ways than one, right?
Right.
Um, and so what happens sometimes is that we get too focused on those tasks that make us feel good, and we completely, get rid of the tasks that need to be done. One of the ways to sort of handle that is to sandwich it. The popular kind of turd sandwich sort of deal is you kind of do something you know that you like doing, and then you do something that you know is going to be draining for you, and then you do something else that's going to pick you up again, and that
I
will
got you.
kind of sandwich the tasks, and that could be one way to kind of get around that.
Does time of day or does the time of day make a difference when you do that type of stuff?
Oh,
Or
it
even
definitely does.
sunlight? Yeah. So
Yeah, the,
in the morning, now, is that depending on the person or or just the morning seem to be better for people, or how's that? It's just individual.
it is very individual. My wife is very much a night owl, and I'm very much a morning person. Causes a lot of spats,
Uh-huh.
but if you have to really understand. So one of the first things that I do when you start working with me is I ask you, well, how well do you know yourself? And the truth is that most of us don't know ourselves that well. We say like, oh well, yeah, I want to get all the, eat the frog. I want to get all the bad tasks out of the way in the morning, or all the
Right.
ones that I don't like right in the morning, so that I have the rest of my day free. And this particular individual, he had a meeting scheduled every single day. He was a solopreneur,
Hmm.
and it was very draining for him because, emotionally draining and taxing because it was to do with his business and marketing, and he didn't really like that aspect, and he didn't like knowing about it. But he said he had to be involved, and I get that. But he was putting this task right at the beginning of his day. So, and then he said, and then afterwards, he said that by noon he's just totally out of energy. It's like, well, why don't when are you the most energetic, and when are you the most available in a clear headspace? And in his case, yes, it was the morning, but by simply moving that meeting to the afternoon, he was able to get more done during the day that was more important to him than that meeting, even though the meeting was important.
Because of the energy. I follow you. Well, that makes good sense. You said we don't know ourselves. Well, how do we, or how do you help us figure out who we are?
Oh well, that's very individualized to every person. The first thing that I start with it's a series of simple questions. It's what makes you happy, like what brings you joy. Uh, that's a tough one. Because sometimes, and I'll be honest, I'll be upfront and honest with you. I did not have an answer for that until I was like 35. Like, what makes me happy? I don't know. So
No.
if you don't know that
Eh,
one, don't feel too bad about it. But what are your core values? We do all know those. Like, whether
yeah.
it's being authentic, whether it's being loyal, whether it's being honest, whether it's being loving. We all have a pretty good grasp on those. So one of the things that you can do too, if you're having trouble figuring out what to do, is to, instead of a to-do list, have a to-be list. So,
What kind of
and
list?
a to-be list.
To be. Okay.
So let me expound on this a little bit. Let's say you have a task list that's 20, 20 or 30 items long.
Huh?
Now, ideally, what you want to do is you want to brain dump that. You want to figure out priorities and which ones are going to go first, and try to pick 3 or 4 of those that you want to knock out, right? But what happens if you can't do that? If you're not able to do that, then fall back on your to-be list. So maybe my to-be is in my business to be authentic and to grow and to do these things. And so, but I want to be a kind, you know, respectable business, right? So maybe what you'll do is say, okay, how, in what ways can I do that? And then look at your task list. And once you've identified those tasks that directly correlate to your business being, respectable and socially responsible and things. Just this is an example. I pulled it out of the air.
No, go right ahead.
Um, then you'll see that those tasks all of a sudden highlight themselves. You don't even have to go through and say, oh, well, is this one more important than this one?
When you mention values, I did an example I did that years ago. And so those who don't know that answer or want to do it by themselves, they can find a list, go Google it. What's a list of values? Give me X amount. Go chat TP, give me 100, for example. And then you go through the list and you mark the ones that you think, oh, you just feel, yeah, I'm like this, I like this, I like this. And then, but you're going to have more than, say, 5. You're probably going to have more than 10. So then you start going through, and at least this is how I was taught to do it. Then you go through and say, okay, obviously cross out the ones you think are duplicates or mean the same thing to you. That would be the one, and pick the one that's most feels better to you. And then you're going to narrow it down. And then finally you get down to that last, and you have to pick the fine ones. And the way I did it was I said, I took 2 and I looked at them and said, okay, which one of these 2 is more important to me? And I crossed one out. It's like, okay. Then I go to the next one. Okay, of these 2, the first one you already picked, which one's, and then I might even cross out the first one now and go with the third one, so on and so forth. But that's how I ended up doing it. I'm sure there's probably other ways, but is that kind of the gist of figuring out your values?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Figuring out your values, like what's important to you, or how things make you feel. Sometimes we don't know what to label our values. So
Yeah.
we'll start out with different questions like, if I found a wallet in the street and I returned it, how would I feel? And if I kept it, how would I feel? And then you
Mhm.
can sort of, go that way. And again, it's
Oh,
not about trying to self-judge or judge certain behaviors. It's about understanding how you work.
no, actually, yeah, I understand how you feel and what's most important to you, and can that change over time? I think I only yes, that's what I was thinking too. It can change just with your experiences and so forth.
Well, your core values, like who you are as a person,
Yeah.
when you come into the world, whatever you choose to believe on that aspect, um, those values don't really change over time. Like the core values, you're going to have about 4 or 5 of those that they
Yeah.
really don't change over time. But yes,
Gotcha.
depending on your situation, your more important values will change and shift over time. Like before I was a parent, my biggest value was, relationships with my wife and work, right? But
Sure.
then when the baby was born, and this is where we get into a kerfuffle, right? Um, the baby comes first. And it's all like, and the ego. Oh
Yeah.
well, oh the ego. Like no, my core value, like my value just shifted from I'm now focused entirely on my spouse to I'm now focused on the baby and what's best for the baby. To hell with the
Sure.
relationship with the wife now.
Yeah. I don't know.
Like it's it's not the world's most I guess, efficient way, or things that
Right.
happen, but they just happen naturally over time. We tend to gravitate to those what's important to us at the moment.
I want to get into my assistant gave me a list of information about you, and there's something it's been glaring at me. I look at all these notes here and just one power hour. Tell me about the power hour program or what that involves. I'm thinking an hour, that's not bad. If it really gives you, you got momentum as well in there. But
Mhm.
what's the power hour?
So the power hours is really like a way for you um, to really get a jump start on things, right? So I tend to do things a little differently. My discovery process tends to last between an hour and a half anyway, before you get to that point. So in the power hour, what it is it's more an extension on the discovery, and we
The
really dive
discovery
into.
being the discovery being you're figuring out us, your clients. Is that the idea?
Well, yeah. Well, the discovery session, which is always complimentary, always we always dig into again things like how well do you know yourself.
Hmm.
Do you know your energy levels when you're most energetic, when you're not? Do you know which tasks drain you and not drain you? Have you gotten, like, how granular have you gotten? Like, do you
Sure.
know why this task is a drainer for you? Like my example with the exercise, like, do you know why it's a drainer for you? And sort of what's really blocking you from doing what you want to do. And sometimes that's not an easy question to know, because
I
we
see.
don't know what we don't know.
Right.
So really, the power hour is about diving into that, and giving an outline, personalized outline, based on you and your needs and what you want to do. How you can start to really dive into that, really understand that, and then move forward in how you want to move forward.
I know that I have a. I'm part of a mastermind group, and we talk a lot about the book "Men Are from Mars" and "Women Are from Venus." Are men and women different when it comes to procrastination?
There are some key differences. Um, uh, and again, it's very broad generalizations, because everybody's different.
Oh, sure, and
But
and the book is that way too. But you got to.
yeah.
There's some correlations there.
Oh no, there are. Women tend to be um, more. Uh, they, and again, this is just through like evolution. I'm not pointing any fingers or anything being different, but um, they tend to be more distractible than men, um, which can go because they tend to be more emotional. And again, this is something that is switching over, right?
Well, you
Um,
put a man in front of a TV and try to get him distracted. He's focused.
yeah, that's the hyper focus, which we do see in other things like ADHD and things like that. But
Yeah.
when we're talking the main difference between men and women, um, women tend to see things in a more complex manner, where men tend to try to get really down into the core of things. And again, that's a very broad generalization.
Oh,
Um,
true.
very, very broad.
Now, my wife likes to tell me that I cannot multitask, and I agree with her. I'm more of a let's get this done, and I'll deal with that one later, and we'll just categorize, I guess. Whereas she's obviously able to multitask a lot better than I can.
Mm.
So,
Well, there's a lot of myths and misconceptions there, though. I
right,
mean, multitasking is theoretically not possible. You can only really do one thing at any specific moment in time.
that is correct.
I mean, actually do one thing.
Do literally,
But
yeah.
when they talk about multitasking, I tend to explain it like Google Chrome, or,
Okay,
or another web browser. So let's say you got YouTube tab open, you got your Yahoo Mail open, you got your Gmail open, you got your stock market open, you got your news open, you got your Facebook open, you got your LinkedIn open. And the
all
more
kinds of
tabs you
tabs. Yeah,
open, and the more you have open, the more you're gonna have issues with the one, the attention you're spending each of those things,
yeah.
and two, the processing power. And then you start to get into things like overwhelm, because Now all of a sudden you're trying to keep track of what Susie's cookies are doing at the bake sale on Friday, and you're not doing the same ones. But at the same time, you're on YouTube looking up recipes for how to make those cookies. Like,
Yeah, I got you. So when we first started the conversation today, we made this discovery, or I didn't really think about it at this point, but you said it's not really a habit, which is fine. So how long? Let's say I got you, and said, Chris, I want you I want you to be my procrastination coach. How long does it take to, I don't say break a habit, to overcome those feelings or whatever it is, to, like in your example, turning the heater on? Was it like an immediate thing? It's like, oh, now it's warm, I'm going to go right in, or is it something you have to force yourself and then it becomes more of a routine?
so it really depends on what it is and
Uh-huh.
what the underlying cause is. I mean, and this is something that I love talking to people about too, because I do a lot of work in addictions, and I've seen some amazing things when it comes to addictions. I've seen people kick heroin habits in 7 days, like chemically addicted 7 days. They took a brain scan before and after. The doctors couldn't believe it was the same person. Fluke or not, I don't know. But when your why is high, your cost is low. So it depends on how bad you really want it and how bad you need it, right? There are
Okay.
people that can do this in as little as literally 1, 2, 3 days. The average seems to be about, and I have no idea where they come to this number because I've been looking for it and looking for it, but they say on average it takes about 66.6 days to really like solidify or create a new routine or a habit. Um, but there are ways that you can lower this too. Just as an example, if you want to make a habit of gratitude or mindfulness, you can start by anchoring it to something you already do, like brushing your teeth. I mean, most of us don't skip brushing our teeth in the morning. So if you anchor that new habit, like you say, I want to be grateful for three things, sitting there brushing your teeth, and oh, I'm grateful for coffee. I'm grateful for whatever comes to your mind, right? Because you want to just get that and make it a habit, right? So if you
Right.
can anchor this new habit that you want to another thing that you already do, you'll find that it's a lot easier and you can do it a lot faster. Reading before bed, just make sure that you have your books close to bed. And if you go to bed at the same time, I mean, that habit will take less time to create than, say, you want to go to the gym. Going to the gym is a little more difficult because you tend to want to do it all at once and very fast. And when you don't see results, you get frustrated, and then you drop it, right? Um, but yes, I mean, it can be as little as 1, 2, 3 days, can be as long as, well, I guess there is no real length. It's like what I told you before,
Yeah.
near the beginning of the show. When we have things that we want to do, but it's not really in our wheelhouse, we don't have our why, we don't have our reason to do it, then building the habit we might be able to do. But the minute we stop the habit, which is interesting, because a true habit, when you stop it, you should be able to pick it right up back right away.
Yeah.
But when you're making something and you don't know the reason for it, or you don't have your really high why, you skip 2 days of exercise, and all of a sudden, you've been working out for 6 months, and you skip 2 days, and all of a sudden you're just not getting back into it. And I mean, that was a pretty heavy habit you had.
Yeah. How much is mindset a part of the overcoming the procrastination? And then maybe that's the why part you're talking about too.
It is a little bit, and it really depends on what your reason is. So, I mean, we've got, the perfectionists, we've got the warriors, we've got the dreamers, we've got the crisis makers, we've got the defiers. In every single case, mindset plays a huge role in it because one of the things that we have in procrastination is we like to tell ourselves that things will take more time or less time than they actually do. So we have a lot of time blindness. Um, we have a lot of misconceptions when it comes to time and how long things take. Um, but yes, definitely mindset plays a huge part in it.
You said time blindness. Why? I'm trying to think. I can understand it. Is there a purpose for it? I mean, does the mind overcompensate, or is it a fear? What causes time blindness? Or what's the benefit or negative part of it? I guess negative would be, I guess, it's going to take more or less than you really expect or realize. Is it kind of like calling people? Like, you ever have the anxiety of calling somebody to apologize, or you think it's going to be a confrontation, and you get it on the phone, and that's not as bad as I expected. That was, is it that type of thing where your fears overcoming, you think? Or where's time blindness come in play?
Um, that would be more of like a fear and like a validation thing.
Yeah,
Time blindness really comes in when you when you hyper fixate on certain things or you enjoy certain things. You know, time flies when you're having fun.
right.
So what happens is that you're not so concerned about how long something is taking. You're just really enjoying and you're sitting in the moment, right? Whereas if you have this dread of this task that you don't want to be uncomfortable, your mind is automatically going to make it seem worse than it is to, again, save you
Uh-huh.
from the discomfort of actually doing it.
Sure. At what point do I have to say, and your clients, at what point of procrastination do they say, damn, I think I need a coach? Is it, is that, is it like it's causing lots of problems? And then they finally realize, man, I need some help. Or I'm just wondering.
Well, ideally, what it is somebody's recognized that they want to move forward and they just feel kind of stuck and they realize they're putting things off.
Yeah.
Sometimes, so right now I have about a 60-40 split. 60% of the time, people are coming to me because straw that broke the camel's back sort of scenarios, right? Where
Got you.
they're putting things off and they've missed out on projects or they've missed out on deadlines or they've maybe they're not getting out where they're supposed to go and do. And then 40% is more, I'm feeling like a little unfulfilled in my life. Um,
Hmm.
and I know what I could do to feel better, but I don't have the time to do it, which is a complete fallacy. There
Sure.
is always time. I mean, now, and that's not to say, and I hate this. I really hate this saying, and
Yeah.
it's we're gonna make time to do that. No, you don't make time.
There is no
You
making
you you,
time.
you can't. And as soon as you say that, as soon as you say I'm gonna make time to do this, guess what? It never gets done. Why? Because your brain's saying, how how do I make time? You idiot. How do I make time? you know? So we just change that a little bit. We say we find time, right? And there's so many things that we don't even realize we're doing on autopilot every single day that eat up so much of our time. And I've been guilty of this too.
Sure.
How many times well, not now because I'm trying to avoid it, but how many times in the past did I say, you know what, I want to take a 5 minute break. I've earned it. I've worked for 2 hours. Pomodoro technique. Way to go. Yeah, it's good. But then I start scrolling into the Instagram videos or whatever, and it's like reel after reel after reel after reel. Oh, what's coming next? And then you look up at the clock, and it's like that 5 minutes has turned into like an hour.
Hmm.
So we just get this stuff, and it's really mindlessness. Um, Pamela Dangelheimer actually told me about this one. When we do these things, we're mindlessly spending time. And it's a form of avoidance, a form of escapism. We don't do it on purpose.
Well,
Daydreaming.
hell, some of social media is designed to get the
Oh yeah.
mindless, yeah, get addicted to it.
Oh,
But
it
daydreaming,
is. It
yeah.
really is.
But you said
And
daydreaming.
oh, daydreaming. Yeah. And this really comes, when you're not focused on a task. See, there are four levels of competency. Give a
Okay.
little background so that what I'm going to say is going to make more sense. The first level, you've got unconsciously incompetent, which means you don't know that you suck at it. Not to mince words. You're
Yeah.
consciously incompetent, which means you know you suck at it. You're consciously competent, which means that if you focus on it, you're going to do a good job. And then there's unconsciously competent. where you've gotten so good at it that you can do it without even paying attention to it. Now, contrary to popular belief, when most people go out and they want to learn a new skill, they're going for that unconscious competency. But that's actually the wrong thing to go for. You want to go for conscious competency always, because when you're unconsciously competent, that's where mistakes happen. That's where you leave babies in cars, as the extreme end of the scale. That's where you miss water bottles and lunches because the water bottle was not in the exact same position it was before. Um, or you might miss shampooing once or twice because you're thinking about the latest movie you want
Something
to
else.
watch or something, right?
Well, I've done that.
um,
It's like I get out of the shower, and do my thing, and I look up and say, I didn't wash my hair. What the hell? And I hop back in. But but those type of things you're talking about.
yeah, it's those types of things that really take up the time, because if you're doing something mindfully, just taking the shower thing since we're on it, mindfully, 15, 20 minutes. If I get
Mm,
lost in the shower, if I'm just like staring off into space and doing whatever I'm thinking about, I don't even know what I'm thinking about sometimes. Sure, it happens to everyone else too. But 30 minutes goes by and it's like, okay,
hmm.
that was a little longer than I intended.
Of your clients, well, I want to say this. Everybody, I would say everybody procrastinates in some way.
Mm.
And I think that's probably a fair statement. But the people that reach out to you, are they business owners, professionals, or all the above? Who reaches out and realize they need to move forward, or they want to, like, they need some help to make something else happen or move to the next level? They know that they're procrastinating and causing them something like that. You have a niche that you, I guess, serve.
I definitely serve small business owners and actually university students more than anything else, because right now procrastination for university students looks like not wanting to finish their exams, or not wanting to finish their work because they're worried about AI. They're halfway through like creative writing. They're halfway through programming. They're halfway through search engine optimization or whatever. And they're like, well, what's the point? In 2 years, I'm not going to have a job. Um, or
Hmm.
and again, the other half of that is business owners who are putting off maybe getting into AI or looking into it, or again doing things. So it's a pretty even mix right now between those two groups. So business owners and students.
Gotcha. Last, we're tying this up here. This is one of my favorite discussions. Goal setting or goal getting. You have a program like that. I've heard different versions, and I like to hear yours. Some people say set goals and shoot for the moon, or shoot for the stars and get to the moon type thing, versus making them realistic and not disappointing. I want to know your version of how do you set goals and make them, I don't want to say realistic, but make them powerful enough to really engage somebody to try to strive for
Oh, that's a very it's a very personal thing usually, but the way that I do it is there is no limit to expansion. I mean, if you want to aim for $100 million a month, aim for $100 million a month. But I mean, if that's what you really want to do, you want to break that down into small steps as possible. Like no other step is harder. I mean, the saying is the first two steps that are hardest when they're talking fitness. What two steps are the hardest? The first two steps are the two steps you take out the door to go to the gym, right?
it, right?
So having small steps towards that big goal is very important. Um, because you want to have some progress. Because if I just say that I want to make $100 million a month or whatever in revenue, you can say that, but what has to happen before you get there? You have to make one, you have to make two, you have to make seven, you have to make 100, you have to make a
Right.
thousand, right? So whatever you're looking to do, shoot for the moon, dream big, because there's a lot of that in the world today, that part of what kills our happiness is that we're not dreaming. We're not shooting for the moon. We're stuck in these limiting beliefs because we're told that it can't happen or it's not going to happen. And we play that over in our heads over and over long enough, and we believe it, and it's become self-fulfilling prophecy. So it's really a balance. You need to know what you want to shoot for, and always be striving to get better, right? That's what you always want to do, is always get better, and then set those goals. And if you don't make the goal exactly, you can adjust, right? Um, Whenever you have a goal set, depending on what the goal is and if there's a time frame on it, I like to do 30, 60, 90 check-ins. So after 30 days, say, okay, this is my goal. Where am I at with this? What have I done so far? And, celebrate that progress. Say, well, I didn't hit 100K this month. I hit like 95, whatever, right? And so next month, my goal is going to be to hit 95K. Now, why did I do that? Because we already know that you can hit 95K. And so if you hit 95K and your goal is to do that, then it's almost like in martial arts where in order to break boards and punch through bricks, you have to aim past the brick. You have to aim past the board, because that's where your energy is. Most people who first try to break a board or break a brick, they aim for the brick,
And then
and
stop in
and
theory.
then the majority of their energy is actually stopping before they hit that board or the brick. And so that's why you have those big goals and those big dreams. So
Yeah.
then you smash through them, right?
On that analogy of not really analogy, but the example, when you're punching through a board or a brick, are you envisioning the other side when you do that punch or kick? You think?
No.
Or the,
Well, I mean, everybody's different. For
yeah.
me, it was more about almost allowing for the possibility that my arm could stretch infinitely. I mean, I know that realistically it's not going to,
Right.
but if I allow it to just go as far as it's going to go,
Yeah.
then I hit the board, but it keeps going as far as it
And
goes,
go
and then I
visually.
know.
Cool. Well, Chris, how would somebody who's interested in overcoming procrastination or anything else that you coach on get hold of you?
The easiest way is probably LinkedIn. I'm the only Chris Abdey on LinkedIn, so I'm pretty easy to find.
Sure. Abdi is Abdey.
That it is.
Well, mine is Gilman. But anyway, I did a Google the other day and I found out there's an actor named Chris Gilman. So
Hmm.
anyway, yeah. Your information will be in the show notes down below. Actually, subscribe and like all that good stuff. I sure appreciate your time today, Chris. It's been
Oh,
a pleasure. And if you'd like to do that, Chris is below. I'm also below going to have a workshop, and you want to sign up for that or talk to me about some other things that you've heard in this podcast or previous ones, go ahead and sign up down below, and you'll get we'll start the conversation. Chris, you have a good day. All right.
yeah. Thank you,
All
and
right.
thank you for having me.
Yep. Everybody else have a good day as well. Talk to you later. Bye bye.